they all thought I was crazy. My grandmother, especially, I'll never forget the day of my graduation, going to see her, and God rest her soul. She said, "You're doing what?" When I opened my eyes and I looked to my left, I could see the full moon coming out of the desert floor, and it was massive. And apparently there's some sort of optical illusion that happens with the wind and with the sand, and it creates like this magnifying effect. And when this moon came up above me, when I finally stopped and looked up at it, the first message that I got was, it's time to start Cacao Sol. It's time to share this with the masses, share this with your friends in your community back home.
You answered, right? How many people might have had that call and they were too afraid? I'm not ready. I'm not ready is a big thing in the healing world. And you answered the call. Whether you knew you were ready or felt ready, you answered the call. There's a lot of messages out there for anyone to pick up. And it's really who's going to answer the call.
And so I brought some of the cacao beans here and the cacao fruit to kind of show everybody the process of how we get from this to our ceremonial cacao.
So here we are in the kitchen at the Sagefull, and I'm so excited because we haven't filmed here before. And as you see, we have this beautiful kitchen, which is great for dinners and hosting and demonstrations. And welcome, Luis Jimenez of Cacao Sol. Tell me what we're going to do. Let's start. You want to cook and talk? Prepare. We have a lot of things here I'd love for our audience to understand.
First of all, I got to say this is very special to me because the thing that I preach the most is this. Product is just a doorway. The cacao is just a way to do something like this, to bring people together, to sing and to share a meal. And so I'm really grateful for this experience because it's getting to show people in real time what this is really all about. Because I think sometimes people see the cacao, they see that it's a superfood, and yes, it's a great plant medicine to work with, but it's what we do with it that matters the most for us at Cacao Sol. So I'm really grateful to be sharing this. And this process is something that I learned many, many years ago, actually in Mexico in 2018, when I first discovered cacao. And I was actually on a yoga retreat. So yoga led me to what I do now with cacao. And
were you leading the retreat, or were you just...
I was a participant.
You were a participant, and they served cacao?
Here's what happened. Beautiful resort in Tulum. And Tulum has changed a lot in the last couple of years. I haven't been since that trip. But when I was there, they still had little artisanal farmers markets. They might still have them now. And one day I was at this retreat center and I felt like leaving. I felt like not really attending the retreat that day. Something was leading me to get out of there and to go explore the town. And so I followed my heart and I went and I met this family from Chiapas, which is southwest part of Mexico. And they had been working with this for many, many years. They had a farm there and they taught me about the history of the cacao. They taught me how they would give it to the warriors to make them more valiant before battle. And so I brought some of the cacao beans here and the cacao fruit to kind of show everybody, you know, the process of how we get from this to our ceremonial cacao. And so this is what cacao is. It's actually a fruit. Most people have never seen it before. And if you want, you can open it up.
I would love to open it up. I love fresh cacao.
All right.
There's knives right underneath there.
Here?
And you can cut right on this.
All right. So we're going to open the cacao fruit now.
So that's interesting. Like, to me, it's really, that was a calling. And it's when we listen to our heart and our gut, when we're told to do something. You're on a retreat, you paid money to be there. And you were like, no, today I don't want to be a part of this. There's something calling me here. And look at the journey that it took you on. You know? Wow. And
I remember that was after my yoga teacher training. That was 2 years after my yoga training that I did with you. And I had been working nonstop because I left my corporate job. I was a corporate banker working for Wells Fargo while I was still getting certified to be a yoga teacher. I remember taking paid time off to go to our training and to go to workshops to learn more about yoga because I felt absolutely in love with it. I love the way that yoga makes me feel. I love sharing it with people. I love how it's a fitness modality. It's kind of like the cacao. Yes, it's a superfood, but there's so much that goes into yoga. And you know, as a yoga teacher, that there's so many layers and components to teaching it and to being a practitioner. So after I got certified, I just went to work full time teaching yoga. I left my corporate job and I just went head and first into the spiritual world, the spiritual community. I started hosting workshops and I started teaching all around Miami. I mean, we've definitely paid our dues. You were talking about how far we've come. We definitely paid our dues. In 2018, I finally gave myself the gift of going to this retreat because I felt like my cup was empty and I needed to refill my cup. And it's so interesting that in doing that, I ended up discovering what would later then become the next journey of my life.
Yeah.
And so for me, I feel like that's such an important message to everybody who's watching, that always listen and follow your intuition and trust your heart, because your heart, it knows the way. Your heart knows the way. So always lead with your heart. And none of this made sense to my family. When I told them that I was going to leave a nice corporate job with a 401k and health benefits, they all thought I was crazy. My grandmother, especially, I'll never forget the day of my graduation, going to see her, and God rest her soul. She said, you're doing what? You're going to leave your nice job where you wear a tie and a suit? Because that's how she always pictured me, to be this guy who would wear a tie and a suit. And there's nothing against that, but I just always felt like that life was not the life for me. Like I was meant to do something where I would actually come and touch people, and we would reach people with yoga, with meditation, with sound healing, with natural herbal remedies or plant medicines. I made that decision and it wasn't easy, but I did it and I've never looked back. And there have been a lot of challenges along the way, but they've made me into the man that I am today. With that, with the message of following your heart, there's also this message of, and it might feel uncomfortable at times, but get comfortable in the uncomfortable, because there's a lesson in all of this for us. And I feel like there's so many people out there who would rather just choose the easy way, you know, and instead of following their heart, instead of trusting their intuition and listening to their guides, they listen to what the world tells them. Even me, sometimes I have to remember, hey, this is not the easy path. You already left the easy path many, many years ago, which was, to be honest with you, slowly killing me.
In the end, it wouldn't have been the easy path. Emotionally, physically, mentally, it would have been the difficult path. And thank you for sharing that story. And I love our audience to hear that. And it's never too late to make that change, to follow your heart. But a lot of people live their lives for other people. I have so many things I could say about that, but it's that you were the banker because that's what you were supposed to do, and you made it, but you weren't happy. And it's so, in the fact that you even made a career of a yoga teacher, that's another thing. It's a very hard thing to do, is become a professional yoga teacher. But then that parlayed into this. And what I love, and I was discussing with a friend earlier, I feel a lot of us that got very deep in the spiritual world, we had business lives before.
Yeah.
And there's a reason, because now we're meant to come back and come into our voice that everyone can understand, so we can share this with the world, and not just the people who come to our sound healings and our ceremonies.
They're already convinced.
Like we want this shared with everybody. And cacao is such a beautiful medicine. You can look at it as a medicine. You can look at it as a superfood. You can look at it as a drink that's great for your heart. Yeah. I was told to drink 52 grams a morning to lower my cholesterol and to help with my heart health.
Well, so, lucky for you, we're about to have 60 grams of cacao.
There we go.
Here is the cacao fruits, and these are the beans. And this is what gets fermented and eventually sun-dried. I'm really grateful to be working with one single farm in Ecuador. It's called Hacienda Victoria. And this farm, they're all about reforestation. They're all about planting trees that are endemic to that part of Ecuador.
Where is it in Ecuador?
This is in a place called Santa Elena. It's in the region of Guayas, which is the province where Guayaquil, which is the main port town there, is located.
Okay.
Have you been?
So my very close friend, medicine woman, Sarah, has a retreat center in Bucay.
There you go.
And it's right there. It's in the same area. Yeah.
That's awesome.
She serves mushrooms, and she serves it with the cacao that she makes from the cacao that she grows on her land in Ecuador. Awesome. I did not know your cacao is from Ecuador.
Ecuadorian.
I thought you were going to say Mexico.
The journey led me from Mexico to Egypt, believe it or not. And the story kind of begins here with the bag of the nibs. And for the people watching, maybe you can make out the design. It's actually a pyramid. And in the back, So that's the part where I ended up in Nicaragua, is right after my trip to Egypt. And here in the back, you can see me in the desert with the pyramids in the background.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And actually, we were just talking before off camera about how you had a magical experience in the desert in Egypt when you went. And for me, that's what really did it for me. I thought going to see the pyramids was going to change my life. And yeah, they're impressive, but it was waking up on the day of my 30th birthday in the desert, seeing the sunrise, that changed my life. Shortly thereafter, I ended up in another part of Egypt, which is called Guna or El Guna, and it's in the Sahara Desert. And this place, we went out 4x4 Jeeps to a yoga class in the middle of the desert on the day of the full moon. At that time, true story, I wasn't even following the lunar cycles. And I ended up in Egypt on the day of the full moon in the desert. And right before we went into Shavasana, one of the guides wakes everybody up. It's like the number one thing that you shouldn't do in a yoga class, but he just alerted all of us to open our eyes. And when I opened my eyes and I looked to my left, I could see the full moon coming out of the desert floor, and it was massive. And apparently there's some sort of optical illusion that happens with the wind and with the sand, and it creates like this magnifying effect. And when this moon came up above me, when I finally stopped and looked up at it, the first message that I got was, it's time to start Cacao Sol. It's time to share this with the masses, share this with your friends in your community back home. Because up until that point, from 2018 up until 2020, which is when I went to Egypt, I was like, I like to say I was in the closet about sharing cacao. It's not something that people where I'm from really practice with. Mm-hmm. I'm Cuban, so we're more of a coffee drinking culture. Mm-hmm. I come to find later on in my life through this work that cacao was planted by the Spaniards right around the same time that they discovered it in Mexico. So they took it from Mexico or the Americas to the Caribbean. Mexico is the place where they didn't discover cacao, but they created a language where they can record all the different recipes, and they made it such an integral part of their culture that a lot of people think that cacao comes from Mexico. But believe it or not, and this is no offense to anybody from Mexico, the cacao fruit itself, we know now that it's endemic to the Amazon basin. Yeah. So Brazil, Peru, Ecuador, it actually can only grow 20 degrees north or south of the equatorial line. So we know for sure that this fruit, it thrives in the equator, which is literally what Ecuador is called after. It's the equator. So the cacao fruit itself comes from Ecuador. Now, what happens is that you have a lot of trade regions from that part of the world going up through the Americas, where it ends up in Mexico or Mesoamerica, modern day Mexico. And they had a written language and they codified everything. And there's so many recipes, one of them being with medicinal mushrooms and cacao. This is something that we know that the ancient Mexicans would consume. And they would also use this in order to sacrifice to the gods. Oh, wow. There's a movie called Apocalypto where there's a lot of human sacrifice. Mm-hmm. Of course, there is some truth to that, but it's a bit exaggerated, like all Hollywood movies. They would also offer the cacao to the gods because they, for some reason, always knew that this was beneficial for your heart. And we now call this a heart opener. Right. And even back in ancient times, they would consume this in high quantities so that they can open their hearts. And they, like I said earlier, they would give the beans to the warriors before battle because they knew it would make them more. They chew on them, right? They would chew on them. Yeah. They knew it would give them energy and it would make them more valiant. And it would open their heart. Is there a lot of caffeine in that? I love the question. There's no caffeine inside of cacao. There's something called theobromine. So theobromine is it's somewhat like caffeine. The good thing I love about theobromine is that it doesn't give you any jitters or a crash or a dump in energy. Sounds cacao, like something there's probably a peptide injection out there for. It sounds like something that you would pay for at a store these days, but it's all here in this fruit. The theobromine gives you that focus that coffee gives you. It gives you a boost in energy, but without any sort of side effects like coffee does. Yeah. So there's nothing acidity and right. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with coffee, by the way. There's nothing, and even I will admit that there is cacao out there on the market that's been alkalized. It's what we call the cocoa powder that is not beneficial for us. And that's why we're committed to sharing raw cacao mass, which is what you see here in this bag. So the raw cacao mass, which I'm going to pour in here in just a moment, you'll see that it actually comes in these clumps.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So these clumps are actually, they're bound together by the cocoa.
Can I eat it?
Yeah, you can eat it. It's pure, raw ceremonial cacao, no spices, no sugar, and it's very bitter.
It's good, actually.
And the reason why it's compressed in this way and it looks like that is because of the natural saturated fats that are found inside of cacao. So half of the cacao bean itself, most people don't know this, but half of this bean is actually just raw cacao butter. So this is extracted from the cacao bean.
Wow.
There's a mechanism called the cold press machine that cold presses these, kind of like when you're making olive oil. It extracts the saturated fats.
That's in the inside.
This.
Wow.
And then in the market, this gets turned into what's called white chocolate. Right. So there's really no such thing as white chocolate.
It's just cacao butter.
Chocolate is chocolate.
Yeah.
This is just cacao butter.
Ah.
But if they add vanilla or if they add sugar to it, they'll sell it to you and they'll call it white chocolate. But it's really just a saturated
Because it's all
fats.
chocolate.
It's all chocolate.
It's all chocolate.
It's all chocolate. It's just the saturated fats of the cacao bean.
Okay.
So that's what you find here with the cacao butter. Now, how do you get from a cacao bean to the raw cacao mass? There's something called a melanger that takes the bean itself, it crushes it up into what's called a liqueur, a cacao liqueur, which is a liquid that then gets hardened with the use of the cacao butter, and it turns into this. And this is what we melt down to make our cacao drinks and our chocolate bars, which I also brought you some.
Beautiful.
And we also have ceremonial cups of cacao that all you have to do is add hot water, any hot liquid, it melts and it becomes a drink. So if you're traveling and you want to just have that ceremonial cacao on the go, you can take it with you.
It's
you
like
can travel.
One cup.
Exactly.
That's great.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, and I brought some of that too. So let's get started here on the cacao itself. And I'm going to show you guys the process and what I start with. So I always begin with water.
Let's cut him open first.
Yeah, let's open the fruit for sure. Let's see what this looks like.
And how much water do you?
I need 3 ounces of water to start off with. We're going to make this blend extra thick because that's the way that my teachers taught me.
I am not reading the thing.
No worries at all. So we're going to add some water first. And then we're going to turn on the heat as I open the cacao fruit. I'm going to step out of here a little bit. And we're going to put it on high heat.
It definitely was probably more than 3 ounces.
Oh, no worries.
Okay. It's okay.
We'll have more. Yeah, we'll have more to share with your friend. So we're going to open this pod here.
Ooh.
In the jungle, they'll just grab a rock and they'll just smash it against the rock. But, we have knives here, so we're going to use the knife. So if everybody can see this. This is the fresh cacao fruit with the pulp. Please, Susan, take the first bite. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, some people just eat the flesh. They don't chew the whole thing.
Right.
I chew the whole thing.
I eat the whole thing too. The reason why is because on the inside is what we melt down and what we turn into cacao or chocolate. So you're going to get all the benefits, the vitamins and the minerals when you bite into the bean. Now, it doesn't mean that if you just take the outer part, that you're not going to get any benefits. The outside or the pulp of the cacao bean has potassium and vitamin C. Yeah. There's actually something called cacao water that we make sometimes, and we serve it at our ceremonies or at our farmers markets, and it's very hydrating. And so what I learned in 2024 when I returned to Mexico since my first time there is that they would give this to the warriors whenever they would travel long distances. They would have one guy designated with the cacao water. So whenever they would take a break, they would drink the cacao water, they would rehydrate themselves, and they would keep marching.
What would they do? Soak the water of these?
That's a great question. So what they would do is they would take water in a pot and they would remove all the pulp from the bean. They would then leave the beans out to ferment or sun dry, which would eventually turn into cacao or chocolate. And then they would add lime juice, fresh water, sometimes a little agave or a little bit of honey, and that's it. And after 3 days, that starts to ferment. and you get kind of a buzz when you drink it. So in Nicaragua, they call it champán de cacao, which is cacao champagne, because it's like a kombucha, but it does have some alcohol to it because of the natural sugars inside the cacao bean. You do get kind of a buzz when you drink it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you've gone deep now with cacao.
Very deep, very deep, very, very deep. I never thought I'd be doing this, but here I am. I'm just kind of still following my heart. So I'm going to leave this here so you can continue enjoying that. Mm. What we're doing now is we're boiling the water. Once the water starts to boil, we're going to add our spices. So today we're going to make a blend that I love. It's called the La Luna. We have the full moon coming up. La Luna just means moon in Spanish, the moon. And in here, you can see we have...
Will you look at the little heart?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there's a heart in there for sure.
Yep. Just an outline of a heart has been made in there.
So here we have cherries, beetroot powder, rose powder, and vanilla bean with a little bit of sea salt.
Wow. You make that yourself?
Yeah. Yeah. So this has all been turned into a powder form and it's been dried. Now that the water's boiling, I'm going to add my spices.
They say that the red is really good for the heart as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So the
beets and red blood flowing.
The beetroot powder is good for your gallbladder, and the cherries have a lot of melatonin and magnesium. So they help you sleep, and the cacao also has magnesium, so it helps relax your muscles. This is a great post-workout supplement for those of you out there that like to work out. This is great after your workouts. You can combine this with your smoothies, or you can just have it as is. And also for women during that time of the month, because it helps you with your cramps and it helps you with your blood flow, helps you restore that iron in your body.
The cacao or this combination?
Both.
Both.
Yeah. Yeah, they really help each other. All the spices inside this blend in particular, plus the cacao, and it tastes delicious on top of that. So it almost tastes like a red velvet cake in a drink. I like to tell people that all the time. And then on top of that, we add a little bit of the cacao butter, which is good for your digestive system, and the cacao nibs, which give you extra energy. Because this one in particular, due to the fact that it has the magnesium and the melatonin with the cherries, it does give you more of a relaxing feeling. And so it's more of a blend that I would have in the evening time. And it helps people go to sleep at night. So if you're having anxiety, panic attacks, if you have trouble sleeping, this is really helpful to have before bed. Now, true story, my girlfriend's mother, she's been going through menopause. And so she's been getting some joint pains. She's been having trouble with the hot flashes. And so she went down this rabbit hole of finding different medicines, natural remedies to help her with what she's experiencing. And she discovered that cacao is very beneficial for women going through menopause. So she says, well, doesn't your boyfriend own a cacao company? She says, yes, I'll get you a bag. So she brought the bag home and she ended up making her own concoction. The only challenge with that is that she had it right before bed. Now, her mom is very sensitive to any stimulants. And remember, even though cacao doesn't have caffeine, it has theobromine. So that theobromine kept her up for like hours. And she didn't know what it was because she hadn't changed anything in her diet except the cacao. So when she couldn't go to sleep, she looked it up and she realized, oh, it's got theobromine. So what I always tell people is, if you're somebody who's sensitive to stimulants, if you're somebody who's sensitive to food or what you put in your body, I would say have this 2 to 3 hours before you go to sleep. Don't have it right before bed, because if you are sensitive to stimulants or things that you ingest, it might keep you awake at night.
So did she start drinking in the morning and she's
starting to drink it now in the afternoon.
Okay.
So I would say if you're going to go do a workout or if you're going to do a walk around the block, have this after your workout, have this after your walk as the sun is setting, because it's already telling your body, okay, we're going to ingest this. It's going to give you a little bit of energy right before bed. But if you have it a couple of hours before bed.
What about drinking in the morning?
The morning time blend that we have is also called.
So it's a different blend.
Yeah. So we have a blend called the Mayan Bliss, which I didn't bring the spices for today, but the Mayan Bliss is actually an ode to my trip in Mexico. I was there for a yoga retreat. And we know that chai comes from India and yoga is also from India, although they've also found hieroglyphics of people practicing yoga postures in Egypt.
Believe it.
And so I believe that yoga is universal. It comes from all over, but we'll just say for now that it's from India. And what happens with the Mayan bliss is that it's got chai spices. It's an ode to the fact that I ended up in Mexico, the Mayan Empire, due to a yoga retreat. So it has the chai spices, but with our cacao. So that one is more of an uplifting blend. This one helps you wake up. The chai spices like the cardamom, the clove, and the cinnamon, they're really uplifting. So I would recommend people to have that one in the morning time during or before their meditation. And then afterwards in the evening, they'll have something like this.
So these blends, right? Okay, so you showed us the cacao butter, the cacao nibs, where we can boil our own, which we're doing now, with the spices, and then you sell the individuals. Do you sell those two as mixes that it's already as a powder and I can make my own at home, like a spoonful of it? I love that because I have fresh cacao that someone gave me. So when I want to make cacao, I'm putting all my own spices and I'm grating this big chunk of cacao. So I love that these two blends that you've created for morning and evening. Wow. And I'm so excited. This looks so beautiful as it's boiling, and I can't wait to see how it transforms when we add the cacao. But that's great. So you can make it your own too, right? You mentioned all these spices. So if you were to buy just the little pieces that they can melt, they can put whatever spices they want.
Yeah, and we even have in the back of our bags, we have directions on how to prepare your cacao. It's not going to tell you how to make what we're making right now. This is a family secret, but it will help you on how to make your own ceremonial cacao at home. The thing that I would always recommend is that just like me, just like all the cacao facilitators that I've met, it's really a journey, and make it your own. It's more of you discovering what works for you instead of just trying to recreate what we're doing with Cacao Sol. Let us provide the ceremonial grade cacao and then tap into your own intuition, tap into your own creativity, and make your own blend. I encourage everybody to do that.
What I want people to hear, what just came to me, was ceremonial blend. Okay. The same thing with matcha happening everywhere, all over Miami. They're popping up these coffee houses and these matcha houses. This is not quality matcha. You're drinking sugar. You're drinking combination of things. You're not drinking pure ceremonial matcha. So cacao, the same. If you see hot cocoa and cacao drinks, you want to ask, is it ceremonial grade cacao? Is it coming from a country like Ecuador or Mexico, somewhere that it is grown and it's single sourced? It's going from the grower to the bag to you.
Yeah, we get the cacao from our farmers in Ecuador. It's all sustainably sourced. They hire all the people there from that one town. And the farm has been around since 2011. And it was actually started by 4 brothers from the capital of Ecuador. They're of Quito. Yep. They're of German and Spanish ancestry. And they decided to start a cacao farm because they believed in sustainable farming practices. They saw how popular cacao was becoming in North America and in Europe. And they had that German background, which Germans also love good quality chocolate. And so they decided to move to this town and they wanted to do it right. And that's actually one of the reasons why I decided to collaborate with them. And I've been working with them ever since. It's one of the best decisions that I ever made in my life. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to add just a little bit more water.
Okay.
So I wish people, maybe I can show what that looks like. So that's all the beetroot and the cherries inside. We're going to add some more water now. Yeah.
How much?
That's perfect right there. And then we're going to bring this down so it's in low. So we're going to bring to the low setting now. So now we're going to bring it to a simmer. You never want to boil your raw cacao. Question: why do you think that is?
I don't know. This is a very interesting, I'm learning a lot here because when I've made my own, I don't have a process. So I'm really happy to learn this. Why don't we boil our raw cacao? Would it just stick to the bottom of the pot?
That will happen regardless. Okay. It'll happen anyways. But
I can't stop eating this.
Enjoy.
I'm gonna be like,
it's for you. It's for the family. She greeted me with mangoes. I greet you with cacao. We're happy. We can literally live off of this stuff. Right. Seriously. This is something that is very important. I want everybody to listen. The reason you don't boil cacao is because anytime you add heat to something, it's going to automatically kill whatever's inside of it, and it's going to lower the nutritional value. Now, this is the really important part. Even if you were to forget that and you were still boiling your cacao or you didn't know about that, don't worry about it, because cacao, we know that there's something called the ORAC scale. Cacao has 10 times more antioxidants than any other living thing on the planet, more than blueberries, more than elderberries, more than acai. So this scale tells us that this is the most antioxidant rich food on the planet.
So if you kill off some, you're not killing off
You're
a lot.
not killing off a lot. Exactly. Now, with that said, on the tail end of your comment, you said, make sure that you're getting high quality ceremonial grade cacao. The reason for that is because there is what's called cocoa powder. The cocoa powder is alkalized chocolate. The alkalized chocolate is bereft of any of the vitamins, the minerals, and the saturated fats. What happens is in the 1800s, once cacao or chocolate was already being imported to Europe, started with the Spaniards, then the British, and pretty much everybody caught on. There was a Dutch chemist that started to remove the natural saturated fats, the vitamins and the minerals from the cacao, and started selling this cocoa powder to the people of Europe. There was a depression going on at the time, and it's very cold in Europe. And so they love their chocolate, and they would drink their chocolate. They would get that chocolate flavor, but without any of the benefits. And so we still have that today.
So the commercialization began.
Exactly. And we still have that to this day. In fact, before
I would say like Swiss Miss, hot chocolate, hot cocoa. What is that?
Exactly.
Probably all chemicals.
Exactly. And by the way, if you guys want to look into this, right before coming here, a friend of mine sent me an article that Monsanto is now creating a lot of the cocoa beans or the cocoa fruits. They're genetically modified. So that's going to affect a lot of the work that we're trying to do with sustainably sourced cacao. But I told her not to fear because unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at it, the way that we vote is with our pockets. It's with our cash. So if you don't agree with having something that isn't natural, isn't sustainably sourced, isn't benefiting the environment, your job is not to go out and complain and to protest. The best thing that you can do is support companies and farmers that are still doing it the more sustainable way. And so go and vote with your pockets, go and vote with your wallets, and make sure to support companies, whether it's Cacao Sol or another company that are getting their cacao from a sustainable source, that are supporting these sustainable farming practices. Because if we don't
for
do
your
that,
health benefits,
for your health benefits, and also for the benefit of our planet, because we might not see major catastrophic global changes, but it's coming soon. It's coming. And we already feel it. We already feel the effects every year. I feel like it's hotter and hotter. And so I want people to make sure that they remember that you still have a voice and your voice matters. And instead of getting angry or getting anxious, go out and vote with your wallets. Go out and support companies that are supporting sustainable farming practices.
Beautiful.
And it's good for you too. Yeah. It's going to be beneficial for you. So get the good stuff.
All right. So what goes in next?
So next we're going to add our milk, which is in this little mason jar right here.
And what is this?
This is coconut milk.
Oh, yummy.
So coconut milk from Paradise Farms.
Oh, nice.
I want to give a shout out to Paradise Farms. We were talking about Paradise Farms earlier. We get our coconut milk here from South Florida, from Paradise Farms. If you're not in South Florida, or if you can't make it down to one of the farmers markets here, you can also get coconut milk from Whole Foods. Not because I'm supporting Whole Foods or Amazon or anything like that.
I'm going to give you something even better.
What's
There's
that?
Something called an almond cow, and it's a machine, and you make your own almond milk, coconut milk, cashew milk, butters, creams, peanut butter, like you name it. Make your own, and then you can sweeten it on your own. You know what's in it.
Even better.
Yeah.
Even better.
We make our own here in the house.
Forget anything I said.
I do cashew coconut.
Just listen to Susan. No. So this is coconut milk from Paradise Farms, a local farm here in South Florida. If you're not in South Florida, get an almond cow, right?
Almond cow, make your own. There's a couple different things out there, but make your own.
So we're going to add
Saves you a lot of money.
And people always ask us, what makes your cacao so thick and so creamy? I got to say, it's definitely the coconut milk.
Yeah, her milk is wow.
Yeah, it really helps.
Okay, my almond cow milk does not come out that good, but I also don't measure. So I can tell you why.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, next thing we're going to do is we're going to add the cacao. We're going to add a whole bag because Susan says that she likes high doses of cacao.
I have high cholesterol and I will not take a statin. But I have done all the proper things with Western medicine, and I've been to a cardiologist, and I've had all the tests and stuff, and he said to me as well, no, I don't need the statin, but I do need to lower my cholesterol, and I do worry about my heart health being a woman, and there's been heart disease in my family, and I was actually told many times to drink cacao every morning.
There we go. Yeah. So in here,
instead of coffee Coffee's not good for the heart.
In here we have 60 grams of cacao. So this is about the medium that you want to go with ceremonial doses. I've seen anything as high as 80 grams. And for people who are just starting out, who are still getting used to the taste of cacao, I always recommend 2 tablespoons, which is 20 grams of cacao.
Okay.
I'm going to put the whole bag in there. Now, we have something called a molinillo, which is an ancient frother. I didn't bring my molinillo today. Do you happen to have one by any chance? We got an electric frother.
It's not the best one, but it works.
It works. So we're going to froth this thing up. And the good thing is that by now the water has been boiling.
So it's just going to melt the cacao.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So in this article that I saw that the chocolate bars now, they don't melt. They look like plastic. That's because they're not actually using cacao in chocolate bars anymore. So please, please, please make sure that if you're having chocolate, that it melts. Because if it doesn't melt, there's emulsifiers, there's additives, there's preservatives. Our cacao is so raw and so artisanal that we always tell people, if you go somewhere after you buy our cacao at the farmer's market, make sure you take it with you because it is going to melt if you leave it in the car.
Yeah, right. It's real. It's real.
It's real. It's the real deal.
At least I know I was doing it correctly. I would always warm my milk first, and then put my cacao in, and then do what you're doing. But mine never got this thick, so I really have to work on my milk making skills.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because this is how I want my cacao to look, nice and thick like this. Wow.
Yeah, and then some people will just drink it like this and not add any sweetener to it. I prefer, since I'm working with coconut milk, I prefer adding coconut sugar to the blend. This is because cacao is very bitter. Now, if you're somebody like Susan who practices with plant medicine and you like something that's more indigenous, you would have it without any sugar. Now, I have coconut sugar here.
Yeah, I had some from Bali and I don't know where it is.
I have some coconut milk here, or coconut sugar. So we're going to use the coconut sugar to sweeten this thing up.
Amazing.
And by the way, the bitters are good for your digestion. Bitter food is good for you. We're not really, it's funny you mentioned Bali because in Asia, they eat a lot of bitter foods and they know the benefits of bitter foods. It's good for your digestive tract. So make sure to include bitter foods in your diet. And then there's times where, for example, like on Fridays, I'll just have cacao the old school way with water, with a little bit of spice and just the cacao and the cacao butter. And that's it. And I'll just drink it like that.
I notice I end up my cayenne is heavy. It's too heavy.
Yeah.
I gotta stop with my heavy cayenne. And they just do a sprinkle, but I feel like it gets too much.
Okay.
Wow, this is so beautiful.
Yeah.
I've never made cacao that looks like this.
Really?
No, not this thick.
Well, I'm gonna leave you with a bag. So you have for however long it lasts.
I gotta make I'm gonna have to make my milk. I have to work on the milk skills. I have to actually follow recipe.
Yeah.
And read instructions.
And honestly, this was developed after years and years and years of working with cacao. My cacao didn't always look like this. It didn't always taste like this. We get a lot of compliments on how it tastes. It's really just an exploration. Discover what tastes good for you. Discover what works for you. Try different spices. Make it into your creative project.
That's the thing, right?
Yeah.
Replace your coffee with cacao and make it your own.
Make it your own.
I had something the other day. It was like a digestive blend from India that an Indian friend had made, and I hadn't used it in a really long time. And I put it in my cacao, and the flavors were so beautiful. And it had a little bit, because it was an oily texture, and I was like, wow.
Cacao helps to amplify whatever you do with it. So say like what you just added to the cacao, what your friend gave you from India, say you're about to go do a sound healing, or you're about to go take a yoga class, or even get a massage, drink some cacao either before or after, and tell me how you feel in the morning, because it's going to enhance, it's going to boost whatever you do with it. Also, I have a story for you about the cacao and the music, which I'd like to share with you once we have a seat.
Yeah, when we sit down, we're going to talk more. All right, so now here we are drinking. Cheers. Salud. Wow, it just... it looks, it smells, and it tastes unbelievable. There's a lot of cacaos out there, especially in Miami, and yours really is something special.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. That was a special experience for me to make this in your kitchen. This is my first time in your home. Wow.
Welcome.
The reason I say that is because for us, and I mentioned this on camera when we were in the kitchen as well. I'll say it again now.
I don't want to put it down.
For us, cacao is really just a doorway
Yeah.
into what we just did, which is to share a meal, talk, sing, come together. And for me, cacao has always been the medicine of the heart, the medicine of connection. And there's so many benefits to cacao. There's so many medicinal properties to it. We talked a little bit about the theobromine. You asked me if there's caffeine. It does give you a boost in energy. It's great for your blood. It has a lot of iron and magnesium. And that's all great. However, I feel like for me, the thing that really connects me to the cacao and continues to inspire me is when we come together and do things like making it, or when we sit in ceremony, or when we have cacao making workshops and people like you get to ask all their questions about making cacao, and you learn so much about cacao, its origin, how it's made, where it comes from. And those are all things that I really love about what I do. And so for me, I never set out to start a cacao company. What I did was I created a company that allows me to do the things that I wasn't able to do as a kid while growing up. Because in my home, there was always some sort of underlining tension. There wasn't really this sense of cohesiveness that I feel when we sit and we drink cacao and we have our ceremonies. And so what I did as an adult was I created a platform or a company or a family, whatever you want to call it, that allowed me to do the things that I wasn't able to do as a kid while growing up.
When did you have that realization that that's what you were creating? Because that is so beautiful. And I think a lot of the times we don't look back and realize what we were missing, right? Yeah. Or so when did you put that together that that's what you were creating? So you told us a story of finding cacao, right? You found cacao in a retreat, which took you on a path, obviously, of learning more about cacao, which eventually took you to creating this. I'm sure when you first just had cacao, you were drinking it on your own, drinking it with friends. When did it come? This is a business, and I can do this. I can create, I can import, I can have my own brand and bring people together. And that's huge, is community. And we know people are so disconnected in today's world. So I honor you for knowing what we create for ourselves, everyone needs as well.
Yeah.
So it's like you didn't have that as a kid, and now you realize, I'm sure, how many people didn't have that as a kid as either. How many people are so disconnected from community now?
Yeah.
That they need that.
That's a great question. And I've had many realizations along the way. Started off as just someone who was drinking it at home, making it myself, experimenting with it. And then in 2020, I ended up in Egypt on another yoga experience. This time I was fully led by God. I didn't go with anyone. I was going in the middle of the pandemic.
Just you by yourself?
A few days before my 30th birthday. And that trip led me on this journey through different deserts and different lands in Egypt. And at that time, I wasn't following the lunar cycle, but it just so happened that I was in this place called Guna, or El Guna, and it's in the Sahara Desert. And on that night that I was there, that one and only night that I was there, I was introduced to a guy from Holland. And what he does is he takes people out on these experiences in the desert. And that day they had a yoga class on the full moon. And so I signed up. I didn't even think twice. We got inside these 4x4 Jeeps and we ended up driving all the way out to the middle of nowhere. Thank God I trusted these people. And as we were getting into Shavasana, one of the guides woke everybody up out of Shavasana and said, everybody look up. And we saw this beautiful full moon coming out of the desert. And that moon spoke to me. And in that moment, it told me, now it's time for you to take everything that you've learned over the last 2 years and apply it and start your company, start your business.
Did you already have it in your mind before that moment?
No, because here's the interesting thing. Again, I wasn't following the lunar cycle. I was already a yoga teacher, which is how we met. And I had been teaching for 4 years at that point. And when I got back home, I actually met somebody, a friend of mine, and she was hosting lunar circles. She follows the moon to the T. And so I go from not even following the lunar cycle, not sharing cacao in ceremonial spaces, being, like I say, in the closet about sharing cacao and not really even talking about it to people. Most people didn't even know I had been practicing with it for that long, to now hosting my first ever cacao ceremony, which was a month after I came back from Egypt on the full moon, and I was in Miami Beach.
You just got thrown right into it.
But
you answered, Luis, like you answered, right? How many people might have had that call and they were too afraid? I'm not ready. I'm not ready is a big thing in the healing world. And you answered the call. Whether you knew you were ready or felt ready, you answered the call. There's a lot of messages out there for anyone to pick up.
Yeah.
And it's really who's going to answer the call.
Yeah. So I answered the call because there's something about being chosen. And I feel like we're all being chosen to do something in our lifetime. We've all been chosen to do something. We all have a purpose. There's a thing between getting chosen and choosing. And it's that decision that you feel the call, you get the messages and you see the signs. And then it's up to you whether you want to choose or not. And either way, you're going to choose. It just depends on whether you're going to choose that calling or you're going to revert back to your fears and do what you've always known. We talked earlier in the kitchen about how I come from the banking world. I started off as a corporate banker before I got into yoga. And I did that because that's what was expected of me. Yeah. I come from a very poor background. We're all immigrants. We come from Cuba. And my grandmother, who was pretty much like my mother, who raised me, always saw me in a suit and tie. And so I've been conditioned from the time I was a little kid to be that was what success meant. And so when I told my grandmother on the day I graduated from yoga teacher training that I was going to leave my corporate banking job and be a yoga teacher full time, she nearly had a heart attack. And God bless my grandmother. She never really understood it because for her, that was not an official job title. That's just something that you did for fun. Yeah. But for me, I always felt the calling to do something on the spiritual path. And it was scary because I left a very nice corporate job with 401k, full-time health benefits for a full-time yoga teaching job that had no guarantees.
You have to bust your ass. You have to bust your ass. You have to be teaching all over the place and then getting the privates. Like, it's a 10, 15 classes.
I was making $25 a class at that time, and I was working all over Miami, driving from South Miami to Coral Gables to Miami Beach and back. And after 2 years of doing that, I felt drained. My cup was empty. So that's when I decided to do something for myself. And that's how I ended up at this yoga retreat in Mexico, which was in 2018.
And it took you on this path.
And that was the trip that led to where I'm at today, because there was a day on that retreat where I decided to follow my heart, trust my intuition, and not go do what the retreat said I should be doing. Right. And I decided to go and meet local people. And during that experience, I met a family from Southwest Mexico. It's a town called Chiapas. Mm-hmm. It's very much known for their cacao. And they had been working with cacao for many years. They had a farm, and they taught me about the history of it, and more than just the history, how they connected to cacao and how it was in their bloodline and how they would give it to the warriors before battle to make them more valiant. So for me, that's what hooked me.
I was going to say, I feel like that was a really defining statement for you.
Yeah.
Right? Of bringing it back to indigenous ways and warrior ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember my first yoga Instagram handle?
Yes.
What was it?
It was some warrior
Peaceful warrior.
Peaceful warrior, yeah.
So I was the peaceful warrior, and I've always connected with that dichotomy of being peaceful but also being a warrior. There's a quote, and I can't remember, I think it's by Lao Tzu, that says it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. So
I like that.
So even though I don't believe in violence and in killing, I'm very much against that. I do have values and I do have things that I believe in, and I do believe that it's important to fight for the things that you believe in.
You should look into Sikhism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, that's true.
Sikhism.
That's true.
They're warriors.
That's right. They're warriors.
Yeah. Yes, you have to give, and is an oath of being a warrior, but of being of peace and of love. But when it comes time to be a warrior, you have to step up. So how does one go from given a message start this business to a month later serving cacao to, I would assume you have to import your cacao, and like, how does one get from there to there?
So at this point, I was importing the cacao from Mexico.
Just for yourself?
Just for myself.
Right. And
so,
now you started to share it.
So I started to share it, and I was only making small batches at a time. And I had a little recipe that I was working with that later became what's called the Mayan Bliss that I was telling you about earlier. It's a blend for more of a morning time routine before meditation to help you wake up in the morning. I get together with my friend who was following the lunar cycle, and we announced this thing. And I had a couple of weeks to tell all my friends and people in the community. Sure enough, over 60 people showed up that night. And
had you started an LLC even yet?
Nothing.
Not even yet.
No name, nothing. And over 60 people showed up, people that had never even met in the community, who had heard about this cacao ceremony. We were still in the pandemic. There were still certain regulations that basically forbade us to do what we were doing, but we decided to do it anyways because people were sick and tired of being indoors and locked in. When that many people showed up to my first cacao ceremony, I felt like it was a sign from life. It was a sign that I was on the right path. What I decided to do is I took some of the earnings from that, some of the earnings that I had from teaching yoga, and I went to Nicaragua. And in Nicaragua, I ended up staying there.
Why Nicaragua?
There's a friend of mine who already knew a group of people that were serving cacao in Nicaragua and had a retreat center which honors the traditional indigenous ways. And
so you went to learn.
They're big on how cacao starts, the process of fermentation. So I wanted to learn as much as I could about it. And I said, what better place than this place? And it's on an island called Ometepe. It's in the Lake of Granada. It's a beautiful island. And there's actually a really cool mythological story about Ometepe. So Ometepe it's the island that the Mayans prophesied would be the last place on earth. There's ancient Mayan glyphs in Ometepe that tell of a story that where there is an island that has two volcanoes, one watery and one fiery one, and is shaped like the infinity sign, that would be the end of the earth. So they didn't go past that island. And so I went there to learn about cacao. I stayed there for several months. And after I came back, that's when I had the courage, I had the messages, I had the knowledge and the information to finally go ahead and say, okay, let's make this into an LLC. Let's start a business. And at first, it was just us doing cacao ceremonies in the community, people hiring us to be vendors at their events. A big shout out to a friend that we both know. Her name is Emilia Garth. So Emilia, thank you for always believing in me and for always supporting what I'm about and what I've been doing these last couple of years in the community. She was actually the person that got me to start playing the guitar again, because we did a ceremony together on the day of the full moon. She couldn't play a bar chord. It's the F major chord. So I felt like there was still something missing from that experience. And I wanted to leave people with something that they would take home with them, something that they could integrate with. And so as people were getting up out of their sound healing meditation, I looked over at her and I said, let's leave them with a song. And she said, okay, I'll do it, but you have to play the guitar. And so ever since then, I've been playing it. I've never put it down. And then that led me to going on retreats with other medicine musicians in the community like Jesus Hidalgo. And that whole journey brought me to where I'm at today, where I'm leading my own cacao ceremonies. We have a ceremony called the Ceremony of the Heart. And it's basically just a hodgepodge of all the things that I love about the ceremonies that I've been a part of in one night, where we get together, we talk about the cacao, the history, where it comes from. We drink cacao in an intentional way. We share music. And I'm really happy to say this, that after almost over 10 years of working with cacao, I now write my own music. I have songs that I've recorded that are going to eventually one day be on an album. And it really has helped me connect to myself, and it's really helped me connect to my ancestors, because even though, like I said earlier, cacao doesn't come from Cuba, it was actually brought over by the Spaniards. around the same time that they discovered it in Mexico. My father was a musician. My brother was a musician. So every time I sing, every time I write and I compose a song while drinking cacao, I'm not just connecting with the ancient Mesoamericans, I'm also connecting to that part of my family, that part of my bloodline that maybe we're not drinking cacao, but we're still expressing themselves through music, through that medium of writing and poetry. And so for me, cacao, again, is the tool. It's the doorway that helps us open our hearts, connect to ourselves, to each other, to the past, to the present, to the future. And it allows us to transmit something from the divine. It really opens up a lot of channels, at least for me. If you're receptive and open enough, it can do wonders for creative people like artists, musicians, or even sound healers, whatever you do, really, even if you're somebody who's a journalist or who likes to just write on their free time or who likes to cook, cacao will help open up your creative juices and allow them to flow even more. Thank you, Susan, for having me over.
That's so beautiful.
Opening up with some vibrations.
Always
Singing.
Something to ground.
So this is one of my favorite prayers, and it's from Brazil. And it's so simple. It's just vowels, enunciations. So it's hey, hey, hey.
Hey, hey, hey. So, wait, is it just vowels or is it yahe?
Yeah.
Working on the voice.